Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today for a session on student disability services, student evaluation and accommodations, and faculty support. My name is Lot Hill. I am with the Center for Inclusive Excellence, and it is my pleasure to present to you. And thank you so much for joining us today, Peter Vu.
Hi, everybody. My name is Peter Fu, pronouns he, him, his. I am the interim assistant director here at Student Disability Services. I actually will be leaving this position in about 3 weeks or so, but I still love this place with all my heart. I have a lot of experience here, and I hope to inform you all as much as I can and answer any questions you have for sure about what services we offer, how can we support you, how can we support our students, how can we work together and collaborate to make the best experience we can for our students. So yeah, I guess for my presentation here, I have another presentation that I usually use in these kinds of situations, but I just want to use that presentation to kind of set the stage and have you all understand the context of what we're experiencing, at least currently in the world of student disability services. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Give me 1 second. You all able to see that? I hope so. Let me move this on over here so I can see it better. And great. So as we recently I guess we returned to our previous branding of student disability services, which was important for our students to be able to identify and have an identity of disability, not to shy away from disability. It's not a dirty word. So we want to make sure to have that available and, be that identity for students that they want it to be. Also, it also helps out a lot for students identifying our services because, our previous name, Student Ability Success Center, was really kind of a little bit vague. And if you're going in and you're looking for disability services, it's sometimes tough to find, especially when you're doing like a little Google search or even if you're just searching on the SDSU main page, it can get a little bit difficult. So having this name change, especially going into our marketing and new student orientation, we've had so huge turnout in terms of folks coming up to us and understanding who we are, what we bring, and what services that we can provide to them. So student disabilities services going forward, and we hope it's a positive change for everyone. So just a few things I'm going to skip around because I just want to get to the really kind of interesting parts here is we have about 26 staff members. Um, we have student employees, we have graduate interns, but the most important number here is right down here at the corner, 2,700 plus registered students. So just going to give you context, about maybe 3 or so years prior, it was about half that number. So over the past 3 years, we've almost doubled. So a lot of it has to do with stemming from the pandemic, and a lot has to do with just natural growth, recognitions from K through 12, that kind of bubbling up through those channels into us now. It's great. It's more people recognizing that they could benefit from recognizing that they have a disability and being able to get support for that. That's something that everyone wants. Uh, I guess the issue is making sure that to have this be able to support all those new students and all these new situations that we're finding ourselves in. It's not only the amount of students that are coming in, it's the new kind of paradigms that we're living in now with virtual learning, remote learning, and all kinds of new digital learning and platforms that we're having to support and help our students support them with. It's definitely been a challenge, and I'm sure you all have had that challenge as well. So I just want to make sure to recognize all the wonderful things you all do in the shift in teaching paradigms. We feel the same thing on the support side as well. Another interesting kind of thing to take a look at is this is a student population breakdown of our the types of disabilities that we're looking at. So this is fall 2022, back when we had a little over 2,500 students there. Um, we see that the invisible or non-apparent um, disabilities are growing fast. So being able to pivot and support and make sure to have additional support for these um, types of disabilities, it's becoming a large thing that we have to kind of look ahead and get ahead of the game in order to support folks for. So I just want to, give you these things and to let you know like the context behind what you might be feeling in terms of providing accommodations or getting accommodation letters, and the kinds of things that we are experiencing here at our center as well. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of a better picture of what we're currently experiencing here. In terms of what we do, we have a whole bunch of different ways to support students. We have, of course, our test accommodation center. So folks that have testing accommodations, they can schedule time at our facility. This is something that I'll probably give more detail about on to how you all can see it from the student side and the instructor side on how those are taken care of. We also have a support for our deaf and hard of hearing. And a whole bunch of these other workability is great. It's a program that helps place folks in their career and kind of identify their career goals, and working with disabled students in order to figure out, hey, what job opportunities are you looking for? What are you looking more towards? What can we do to provide support for you? Like mock interviews and things like that, and making those connections within like different institutions and government institutions, being able to provide a connection to students so they can continue on with their career goals after SDSU, right? Our accessible technology center is great. They help students with getting on board with accessible technology, which is huge. The big thing we're pushing now is for, if we want our students with disabilities to have more independence, we have to equip them with methods or technology in order for them to being able to use that in the field. It's great that we can offer a scribe or a writer here physically on campus, but that may not always be available out in the field, right? So if you introduce technology where they can have that reliably, they don't have to schedule somebody or wait for another person and rely on another person, that's absolutely fantastic. If we want to have students be independent so they can do what they need to do at the time they need to do it and not rely on other people to do it, that's a great feeling. It's fantastic. Our TRIO student support services is amazing too. They provide peer mentoring and tutoring and all those kinds of supports. So if you have a student that that might be working through, study skills or just life skills or things like that, TRIO is a great resource for those students. So, if you notice those students that you feel that could benefit from that, that's a great resource that they can tap into. And of course, we have our accommodation counselors. They're the ones that'll be contacting you with if the student specific issues, and kind of work with you in what's called the interactive process in order to figure out a solution for whatever complications that an accommodation might provide to you in the classroom. So they provide that link. They also provide that assistance to students in order to best support them and their goals going forward here at SDSU. So what I'd like to do now is, I have a whole bunch of other slides, but I'll kind of spare you all. It's a lot of text and information that I think could be better utilized in seeing actually what students would see and what an instructor would see in terms of a kind of an everyday kind of interaction with our online portal. So our online portal called SDS Connect is the main way that's faculty and students can kind of interact in terms of letting students disclose their accommodations to an instructor, and for instructors to kind of be able to take a look at the student's accommodation letter and tell, hey, these accommodations I need to prepare for, and how do I take care of these accommodations? What is my responsibility, what is the responsibility of the student, or what is the responsibility of student disability services. So I will temporarily stop sharing the screen and pivot on over to another screen here. Just give me 1 second. All right, so here's our new spiffy website that we just redid with our rebranding over to Student Disability Services. So in order for students to get started, so we'll kind of start from the actual basics here. So if a student's looking to get accommodations with us, they do need to apply. So they need to send in an application, and they also need to show documented proofs of their disability, whether it's something that they already have, a diagnosis from a medical professional or any licensed professional. We'll take that. There's also a disability verification form that the student can bring to their licensed professional that they see, and they can fill that out and have that sent to us. So we'll take both of those and we'll go ahead and process that. We have a team that works every week. They have a meeting to go over new applications and to kind of vet and make sure everything's good. Once the application is approved, we'll reach out to the student to set up an intake appointment. An intake appointment is super crucial because it lets us connect with that student and say, hey, what kind of accommodations would work for your documented situation? Then we'll work out what accommodations would be appropriate. Once that happens and we work out what accommodations will work out, we'll give them a rundown of our services, how to use them. So we've run into the case recently where there's a lot of students who I didn't know we had to sign up for exams 1 week in advance. Students definitely are made aware. We let them know during their intake appointment. We also send out an email every semester just letting them know, hey, welcome back to the semester, and remember how to use your services, and here's how to use them. So students should be aware of how to send their accommodation letters to y'all and how our processes work. So after the intake appointment, students have their accommodation letter and they can actually go onto our portal and send those out. So right now, I'm going to show you an example of what that kind of looks like for a student. So let's say I'm logged in as a student here. They'll go to they can get there from our main web page here. There's an SDS Connect button here. They'll connect, they'll hit that. And then there's like student login, instructor login, note taker login. They'll use the student login here. Below here is a whole bunch of guides. So if a student has any issues about how do I schedule a test, how do I send my accommodation letter, it's right down below there. So they should know that too. For faculty, we also have a couple guides here on how to view accommodation letters and how to submit exams if a student has test accommodations. So let's gonna take a look at it from the student side. So when the student clicks on the student login, they'll get to this page here. The first thing that they'll need to do every semester for every class that they intend to use their accommodations for, they'll hit the send access accommodation letter. This allows for the instructor to be able to view their accommodation letter. So we just go here, hit accommodations. There's a whole bunch of courses that the student's waiting on. I just added this cartwheeling 101. So if a student's looking for accommodations for that class, they'll just hit the request button. And then it'll show all their accommodations here. They'll show what accommodations that they want to use in the class, right? They don't have to disclose all the accommodations that they have, just only the accommodations that they feel like they'll be needing. So for this, we're just going to go ahead and leave it as a default, time and a half for exams and a distraction reduced environment for exams. There might be other accommodations. It could be like note taking, it could be alternative media and stuff like that, and we can certainly address that later. But for right now, we'll just stick with something simple. And right here, it'll ask the student, are you okay with these accommodations? Do they need any changes? Usually the student will hit my accommodations to correct the way they are. And then we have some privacy stuff here that they can agree to down here, and then they'll hit the submit button. So once they hit the submit button, an email will shoot out to the instructor, and it'll say, hey, Professor so-and-so, you have a student that has accommodations. Go ahead and click this thing to review their letter. And I can kind of show you that. Let's see. Let me see what that looks like here. So I'm gonna log out. Page. I have myself set up as an instructor as well, so hopefully this will be. So when an instructor logs into SDS Connect, this is what they'll kind of see. They'll get an email, and the email will link them to this website here. They can click on accommodation letters. There we go. And we should see the accommodation letters for our student here. So they'll see, hey, this student in my cartwheeling class has accommodations. Let me go check that out. So they'll just click the view letter here. They'll link to a PDF, and you can review the PDF. I don't think it'll bring it up in the browser, will it? I guess not. But there'll be a PDF, and I'll have what accommodations that the student has. So you just kind of read through that, and it should go, line by line, who's responsible for what accommodation. Actually, let me see if I can switch this screen share to the PDF.
And Peter, as you do that,
Yes.
Alexis dropped into the chat a few moments ago a question about deadlines to be aware of. So as you go, if you don't mind sharing info about deadlines.
Absolutely. For deadlines, there's no deadlines for sending in accommodation letters. We always tell students, if you're going to be using accommodations, send it in as early as possible into the semester. That way we can, or instructors can be prepared for those, to make those accommodations, or to work with us to see what those accommodations look like in the classroom. We'd always like, as far as advance notice, if a student is looking to schedule an exam, exams are very specific. We have our test accommodation center. We only have about 24 slots in our center. So, we'll try to fit as many people in there as possible, but there's always the case where, especially with classes slowly bringing their exams back onto campus, we're going to, go over those 24 slots. We're not going to have enough room here. So we tell students, schedule those as far in advance as possible. So if we need extra space, we can make sure to reach out to our folks to reserve extra rooms and extra proctors. So we ask at least 1 week in advance for tests. For final exams during finals week, we've been known to do up to 1,400 exams during finals week, so it can get pretty hectic, and there's a lot of logistics that need to be worked out. So for final exams that happen during SDSU's finals week, we ask for 1 month in advance notice. We just let students know, every student know that, hey, sit down with your syllabi, take a look at those. If you have exams that that are coming up, go ahead and book them. If they're not in your syllabi, work with your instructor to make sure that you know when your exams are coming up, and inform them that you need at least a week ahead of time in order to book your exams. For final exams, all finals, or the final exam schedule is pretty much set. There's a finals week web page where it shows, hey, your class meets Monday, Wednesday from 9 to 10:15, and your final exam meets on this date from 10:30 to 12:30. So students should know those in advance. We say, hey, go ahead and book those right away. If you need to cancel, if you end up taking the exam in the last day of class because your instructor wants to just head out and peace out, sure, we understand that. Just go ahead and cancel right before then. That's totally okay. But we just want to make sure to get all the logistics in the worst case possible. So if everybody ends up deciding to take their exam, we want to make sure to have proctors available. We want to have space available. You all shouldn't have to think about this. So just to make it easier on the students' part, we say, hey, book all your exams so that you don't have to think about it. One less thing for you all to think about. You have school activities to think about. You have all these great events. You have your class. You have studying. This is one less thing that we want you to have to worry about during the semester. So we definitely encourage students to kind of do that. All right, I hope that answered that question, and we'll go back to that here in a second. But so here is what kind of a accommodation letter looks like. Let me kind of zoom in here. Where's the zoomy tool? Yeah, so accommodations will look like this. They'll have a little preamble here. Notice the coding here where it says what accommodations are responsible by who. Test accommodations, depending on what your format of your tests are. Some instructors have exams that are in Canvas. They can be taken at home in the comfort of a student's own home. In those cases, they don't have to schedule their exams with us. They'll just work it out with the instructor and say, hey, hey, professor, I have exam accommodations. I have extended time. Would you be able to provide that for me on Canvas? And usually they'll say, yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. If it's an in-person exam that's happening in person and needs a live proctor, for sure, the student will then want to make sure to reserve time at the test accommodation center. And I'll show you how that kind of works here in a second. So those in-class exam accommodations should be initiated by the student, and that's on purpose, right? Some students will want exam accommodations, or some students won't. Sometimes students will send out their accommodation letter and they'll say, okay, I think I'll be needing my accommodations. I'm not sure. Let me take my first test. Let's see how that goes. And then if I end up needing my test accommodations, I'll go ahead and sign up for the future ones. So that's often the case. I think there's instructors sometimes will get the notice of accommodation letters and think that their students are already scheduled for tests and things like that. That's not the case. When they get their accommodation letters, just take a look at the accommodation letters. If a student ends up scheduling an exam, you'll get another email saying, hey, your student is scheduling space at the test accommodation letter. We need, your exam. We need to know a little bit more about your exam, and we'll kind of go back to that here in a second. But yeah, here this is, and it'll show the accommodations, classroom accommodations, testing accommodations. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Student Disability Service. So we're here to support you. If there's something that doesn't make sense to you or you don't know how to provide, just contact us. We'll figure out what that is. Accommodations can mean lots of different things in different contexts. Everybody has their own way of teaching. So we want to make sure to respect that and make sure to work with you on how we can make your teaching more accessible. For sure, we want to support everybody's amazing ideas and creativity, but at the same time, we want to make sure that those are accessible to our students. Okay, let me stop sharing with this and go back to the browser here. Okay, so once you see the accommodation letter, everything looks good to you. You just make sure to click that and hit submit. Let us know that you have seen the accommodation letter. So now let me kind of just show you real quick on what a student sees when they go to schedule an exam with us. Okay, so if a student has a schedule or a test or a quiz coming up, they'll hit the schedule test or quiz button. They'll have two different links here they can use. One's for finals week, which requires a month in advance, and one is for just everything else in the semester. So let's just say we have an exam coming up on October 4th. Seems like a good day. So, it'll say to students here, if your test or quiz is happening less than 1 week, do not try to schedule your test or quiz through SDS Connect. Our system won't allow students to schedule any exams that are less than a week out. For those, students will need to contact us and make sure that we have available space in order to see the student. In those cases, what we'll do is we'll book the exam and then we'll send a late request to the instructor saying, hey, your student scheduled the exam before 7 days. So we just want to make sure you're okay with that, because a lot of instructors like to plan their exams out, especially if they have a more kind of involved exam or test that requires lots of preparation or to set it up for the student. We just want to make sure to give the courtesy to the instructor. At those times we say if it's less than a week out, we can't guarantee it. We'll try our best to figure it out, to work with the instructor to schedule the exam. But at this point, it's not guaranteed. If the instructor is unable to prepare that exam, or if we can't seat a student, they might have to end up just taking the exam in class without accommodations. The other opportunity would be for students to work with their instructors to see if they can work out an alternate time for their exam. That may not be possible. So we just want to make sure to have the students be aware that they should be booking their exams at least a week out. So let me hit next here. So the course, we're going to choose cartwheeling. And then here is where they set the date of the time and date of the class. So they should be doing it at the same time and date that the class is taking it. If there's a conflict, we say, hey, just schedule it at the time of the test for right now, and then go ahead and send the email out to your instructor and copy the test accommodation center in and explain your situation. Basically say, I have a class right after this class, and with extended time it runs over to my next class, so I can't make it there. Is there a way I can take my exam 30 minutes earlier? If that's something the instructor's okay with, the instructor will apply and say, yeah, that's fine. We'll take that, and then we'll adjust the time for the student. So everything here has to be done at the exact same time and date that the class is taking the exam. Sometimes students will take it into their own hand and just schedule willy-nilly, which we try to avoid students doing. Usually instructors will kind of see that there's an exam happening, not the exact time that the class is supposed to be taking it. They'll let us know, and then we'll reach out to the student and let them know what's going on. But yeah, let's just say here's an exam on October 4th, and you'll see when I hit this calendar thing, anything less than a week out will not be possible to schedule. Like I can't go back to September at all. I can't even do anything before then. So the week out from now is Monday the 2nd. So that's the earliest I would be able to schedule for. So so let's say October 4th is an exam at 9:30 a.m. and our class is 1 hour and 15 minutes. They'll hit next. They'll make sure their instructor info is correct. They'll choose what accommodations they'll be using for their exam. So right here, we're going to use 1.5 extended time, and the test environment would be a distraction-reduced environment, which is basically all the places inside the TAC meets that requirement. They'll hit next. And they'll say, yeah, we have an available time here Wednesday, October 4th at 9:30. We'll hit next. And they'll have this confirmation page where they can check the details of all the information they provided. Everything looks good. They'll hit the checkbox down the bottom and they'll hit finish. So once that happens, it'll be scheduled within our system. We'll see it on our side. We'll assign them a seat. And then, as you'll see here, their instructor will be sent an automated reminder email 6 days before their exam. So 6 days before the exam, our system will send out an automatic email reminder, say, hey, you have these students that are scheduled for your exam on this day. please provide us, exam information, and if you could submit your exam, that'd be great too. We also send another additional email about 1 day before the scheduled exam, just because I know 6 days is rough for some of y'all. It's you all have lots to do, and you might not have your exam prepared by then. We can certainly understand that. But if we can have your exam at least the day beforehand, it helps us kind of prepare, print out, make sure we have everything ready for the student when they come in. That'd be great. So we send another email reminder early in the morning, that 1 day before their scheduled exam date. And the student will also receive a reminder email 2 days before their exam date, just letting them know, hey, you scheduled an exam with us, make sure to come. Here's the address, here's where to go. So, there's lots of reminders kind of built in and baked into our system. And then that's about it for the student side. They'll just kind of wait for the instructor to submit their exam. And then what the student does, they'll just come in, show their ID to our front desk. We make sure to check all their information, make sure everything's good, make sure all the parameters that the instructor has sent about the exam are correct. And, if they're allowed a calculator, what kind of calculator they allowed. If there's any specific notes about the exam that we want to relay to the student, we make sure to relay that to the student. Otherwise, we just have them take their exam with us. We'll be monitoring them, and yeah, we're